item is to discuss / vote to sign a lease agreement with Phoenix Rural Health. I will turn this over to Elizabeth this time, and she can fill us in on the details.
I think you guys know there had been a draft lease, and our outside counsel had provided comments on that lease. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I think Sandy, had discussed those. We have since talked with their legal counsel, and I think we were much closer to an agreement. A lot of the sticking points that, Holly and myself had, I think, have been, most of them have been resolved. I can tell you, based on my conversation with their counsel, they have agreed, to do away with the supermajority language. We're still working on the termination for cause provisions. I think their attorney has agreed, you guys can let me know, that in the case the hospital closes, the license would revert back to the city. And in the original contract with the termination for cause, there was the same, language without cause in regards to, not really about provision, but the new operator would have to make payments based on improvements that have been made to the hospital. Based on my conversation with their attorney, I think we've agreed to take that out. My concern with that was if they did something horrible and the hospital closed, which I'm not saying that you would, that the new operator would have to make those payments. But we're still coming to an agreement. We are closer. And one thing, and I agree with their point, when I first saw a 5-year lease, I was shocked and thought that was too long. But from the standpoint of investment, I think that's probably reasonable. And that would be without cost. That would be if you identified another operator that you wanted to come in, they're in compliance with all the terms of the lease, and you just said, we don't want you, we want them. That would be a 5-year lease. And they made very good arguments as to why they needed that security. If everything's going great, they have investment, they have to be able to justify their investment. So it was a compelling argument to me. I'm not sure about Holly. I haven't had a chance to talk with her about that. We are closer to an agreement. Most of what I can see in the 2 leases from Holly and Phoenix, there's some what we call nitpicky stuff, but I think in principle we're close to something that I think both sides could live with, and ultimately the Holly would recommend you guys to pass.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
We have got a clean version that was sent to us at 6:07. Do you want to print that out?
Is that with Holly's changes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
He adapted to her changes is what he told us.
Cause I know he had her, okay. I'll review it if you want me to review it. Cause he had his changes and her changes.
Yeah.
But if you wanna print it out, I don't know that we can print it out.
If you'll email it to me, I can go out there and print it for you.
So are what you saying is he took her lease and incorporated your changes? Okay.
Yeah.
So as of now, Elizabeth, you're in agreement with what her,
I'm reading hers. The only thing I wanted to add that doesn't look like it was incorporated is something we can do by an addendum. I don't think you're gonna have any, qualm with this. I want an inventory done. There
Yeah.
hasn't been an inventory done. That's been a huge issue, but when they take possession, what is the city's, what is Phoenix? I don't think that's in this.
We're 100%,
Yeah, I think that protects you,
Yeah.
that protects us.
Because Jim and I had talked about this the other day.
yeah, we talked about that, and I know in the past, and as we have walked through, there's things that supposed to be there that wasn't there. I don't want, if we leave on goodwill, if we leave, and us not wanting to leave, I don't want anybody saying, well, they took a respirator, or they've taken this, or taken that. I want it done by make, model, serial number.
That's been in every lease we've had, it's just never been done. Another provision that's in this draft of the lease that wasn't in a previous is if they do not open the hospital in a certain amount of time, then the lease would terminate. That way you guys don't just get possession of the building and never do anything and allow us to bring in a new operator. There's
but that would be a feasible amount of time.
it's a year.
It failed if we didn't get it in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, we just didn't do it.
Oh, yeah, it's really. Yeah, it's really.
I mean, we don't wanna lease the building if we're not running the hospital in it either.
Mayor Cherry, have you got that?
I haven't got it yet.
When you go outside,
Yeah.
when you go outside to give us a.
Yeah, it may not say.
Oh, it said sent.
I'm gonna have to step out here in the hallway so I can get a different internet than what's in here.
Is there anything in the new, I know they were talking about it, they invest money, and we go over there and decide we don't like the way they comb their hair, and we kick them out, we gotta pay the money back. Is there any change in that if we go over there for cause?
For cause,
Yeah.
that is taken out. I haven't seen the final version, but if they breach the lease, then there is,
We don't pay nothing back.
we don't, that, from my understanding, I haven't seen the new lease. If we do choose a new operator and they haven't done anything wrong, then we
I
would
didn't
have
see
to
that.
pay
Yeah, I
that.
can see that.
But if,
But again, I hadn't seen. It has, we also took out of this lease, Holly has in her lease that, and Holly's our outside counsel. Either party may terminate this lease at any time without cause. That has been taken out. What I was speaking to before, if you have someone come in and invest money in a hospital, and you can just say, hey, at 180 days notice, you gotta get out. That doesn't incentivize their, and I'll be honest, I was skeptical about that at first, but it makes sense. So that's something this board has to decide if you're comfortable with a 5-year term.
We think the most likely, if we're having made you guys mad, we've done our job, and at 5 years you want us out, it's probably because you have one of the big boys who's come to the game and said, hey, we want to take over, like a UT's come or a Covenant's like that. We're okay with facilitating that, it's just, we would like to recoup the value that we put in it, because I have investors that are behind me that would want their value back. But I think we would actually facilitate that for you all. You know, my goal is to save rural hospitals, okay? And reopening yours would be a wonderful project. And I want to do that, okay? I don't anticipate failing, and we put all that in there, so we do it. But I could see there, you know, you fit in it, and Oak Ridge comes and says, hey, we'd really like to have that ER up in Jellico. You guys have got it established, but we've kind of put the effort to make it a real business. And it would be a decision that might be really good for Jellico. And we want to be supportive of that. We might not be real happy about it, but what we're making the commitment is, whether we're happy about it or not, we will make it happen in an appropriate way to serve the community in the best way. And
If we was, if there was to be cause to remove these, and we have to pay back $3 million to you, that's gonna be a burden on the taxpayers that I don't want to put on.
okay, well, that's
See what I'm saying?
and I think
If we had $5 million or $3 million laying around that we could just throw away, you know, that'd be one thing, but that would be a burden on the taxpayers, and we're already burdened with a debacle that shouldn't have never happened. And I don't want to be part of another one,
we understand your perspective. We also understand that you kind of had somebody who's felt like they've been injured 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And your first lease probably wasn't this intense to sign. But we're sort of living as the people going in after people have been hurt. And so we've tried our best to accommodate what we would want. We both have suffered the tragedy. I mean, I lost my job from the closure of a hospital. I lost my position, I lost what I was, and so I understand what it's like to be messed over by a hospital company. So, I think we got a lease that works pretty close. I'm not, you know, ultimately it comes down to, do we get along?
So, in that case, so if you decide you want, after 5 years, an Oak Ridge or whoever to come in, they haven't done anything wrong, the lease is intact. It's 7 times EBITDA, I don't know how to say that. EBITDA, or invested dollars in operations plus 50%. I have no idea how you come to that calculation, what that amount would be.
Well, here's how we get there. If we've been there for 5 years, we're successful, we bring this from ashes up to a successful hospital. That hospital, based upon our plan, will be worth about 10 million at the end of that. So,
Okay.
That's if,
Everybody's
for
good.
no cause.
Yeah, for no cause.
That doesn't apply to cause.
Right. That's what they'd be asking to sell it out on good standing.
Yeah, just like if you were
Just-
doing anything else.
yeah,
If you
like
guys come and say,
everything
hey, you're kicking this out, you know, you'd expect to get.
Right.
And I hope you guys never want to leave us,
Right.
let us leave.
If you're doing good, why would we?
Well,
Well, that's kind of, the real thing is we're fussing about a lot of things and, somebody might forget to pay a rent check, but I don't want to get kicked out because, we're 10 days behind the rent because somebody just didn't bother to send the check. But if we're messing up and we can't pay the rent, there's a problem and we probably need to be thinking about getting out of here. And you guys need to think about somebody else, so. That's what this is all about, is trying to find a way for us to be successful together.
Okay. So theirs is, we proposed, in our terms of default, we wanted, if they default, there be some, and the default continues for 10 days, they're asking for 30 days. Bankruptcy, if the tenant dissolves or ceases activities to carry on business. For writ of attachment or execution is levied on any item of personal property. Any act of fraud, misrepresentation. If they fail to maintain any required insurance and the default continues for 30 days, if they fail to perform any covenant of the lease. If the tenant fails to operate the hospital or begin to see patients within 1 year, if the tenant abandons the premises before the term of the lease, the tenant is convicted of violating any applicable federal, state statute, regulation, rules. That would be like if they were to get in trouble with Medicaid or Medicare. Those are that's been an issue in the past. So those are the terms of default in this lease. So that's what you guys have to consider. Is that good with you? They will be paying all the property taxes, and let me clarify that, they don't pay property taxes, right? Just on the personal property.
Just on personal property.
Okay. They pay all of the electric, they have to pay the personal property taxes.
Okay, let me get clarification on that. The equipment that is in there right now, defibrillators, all that kind of stuff, is that that's part of the hospital we're leasing? Does that have a personal property tax on it?
That would be, Marcia, do you know how much personal property tax that bill is now?
We had to pay it last year. How much was that?
I went to the courthouse.
Yeah, I went to the courthouse and paid it.
It was it $12,000 or $13,000?
Yeah, I believe it was $13,000 and some dollars that we paid.
You were playing for
We paid for both of these, is
yeah,
what we paid.
Yeah.
For their property.
Part of the reason I have to sign this lease in such an aggressive
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, so we did pay Boavita's property taxes.
But we won't trade, in the classic sense of what people pay property tax, since you guys own the property, we don't have a true property tax, real estate tax. We have the
Not
other,
real property
we have the
tax.
other tax.
So it's not really, it's a triple net lease, but you're getting one of the big ones taken out of that.
Isn't that only if they're in the property?
Well, you own the hospital. The city owns the hospital. So you don't pay any tax. So they wouldn't owe any real property tax.
Is this, we talked about nothing above
Yes.
parking lot?
Yeah, Jim and I had discussed that. That was, he had asked me about the, back parking lot, the buildings up on the hill.
Wooded area.
And the wooded area. The only thing they are wanting really to lease is just the hospital itself.
Parking lot.
That would include the back parking lot and the helipad.
Yeah,
And the parking lot in front.
in front, yeah.
But when I actually say the back parking lot, I'm referring to past the back parking lot up on the hill, is where those old buildings are
Yeah,
at.
but
They
that's
do
not
not
the
want
back-
to lease
Yeah, that's
that.
not the back parking lot.
No.
Well, that's really the,
Yeah.
but that's what I called
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Back parking lot
Be the
goes around
emergency
to the central supply.
Okay,
That's
okay.
back.
But I'm speaking
So
of
they'll
the
pay the
properties
kitchen.
up there where those abandoned,
Anything
Trailers
from
and
the
buildings are.
pavement up to the tree line and on, they're not leasing.
no.
Right.
The lease payments will begin on the 7th month. And then they will increase on the 19th month and then the 37th month. I think we took out of this, I know that you have plans to lease other parts of the hospital.
We took designations
Yeah.
of what triggers that out and put dates in it.
Okay.
So we had some plans, but it actually caused confusion. And so we're just leasing at certain levels, what you
Yeah.
guys get.
And I mean, if we need to execute a separate lease for a different part of the hospital when that time comes, or is it, you're
Just
saying?
leave-
Just
just
dates in
leave
that,
it.
just dates in that document.
So it
I
was
thought
the
we,
whole
I
building.
thought we,
Yeah, that's what I'm
The
saying.
whole building.
But we're
Leasing the whole
increasing
building.
it because we're gonna be using
Right.
more of it, and so we just
Right.
went ahead, instead of saying, when we start a surgery center or
Yeah.
when we start critical access, we'll increase it. What we said is,
the initial
On
lease,
this date-
it's gonna be 10,000 per month for
right,
the whole building.
right,
And then when the upstairs starts operating, it goes up.
There you
no,
go.
it's on a date.
It's on a date.
It's on
the
It's on a
19th,
date.
We increased to 15th and the
Okay.
19th month, and then at the 37th month, we increased to $25,000.
So they're paying that no matter what?
Yeah.
So if-
No matter what.
And so we sort of have, we'll figure it out on our side, but it's not, I'm gonna, we got a plan, but, plans don't always work.
Right.
And so, and it was just easier rather than making it contingent on us to
The
let.
first floor, second floor, all
Yeah.
that was.
Kind of,
Yeah.
and so we just said, well, the whole building has to be taken care of, so to speak, and so.
Right.
They also pay for landscaping, parking lot maintenance,
Oh.
ice removal,
Yeah, that's,
any of that.
We're not gonna do that if my wife and Mark's wife comes over here to do it because we won't be able to afford to do it. I just wanna make that real clear right now.
Palm trees die in the wintertime here.
Say again?
Palm trees die in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? The lease, essentially, they took our outside counsel's lease and conformed their changes to it. The big changes are the supermajority language was deleted. It's a 5-year term, of the lease. The license would revert back to the city. Let me make sure that's in here.
That is,
Yeah, at the end of paragraph 18.1. There's no sort of buyout provisions if we terminate for cause.
And I'm not seeing anything in there where it says this place gets us on fire, we're gonna take the money and run your stuff with the building.
No.
They must have deleted it.
We had it in the other.
I had it in another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kinda faded out.
It's in the landlord's name as
And
an
it's there.
additional insured,
Yeah.
so we are paying the city.
and there's nothing in there that says we have to pay their electric bill if they decide they don't want to pay it.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's,
that's a deal killer real quick.
So that, so it just gets cut off.
That is a real deal
That's a
killer.
deal killer.
Yeah.
yeah.
We've been through that.
Oh,
Right.
The only sort of, in the terms of default, they get 30 days secure instead of 10.
Guaranteed.
And I think the arbitration clause is it.
Is that something that you and Holly agreed on?
Let me look at her copy.
it goes to mitigation first, and if that's not resolved, it goes to arbitration, and the arbitrators, we agreed to arbitration is the final point, and we both agreed whatever the arbitrator comes out with, that's what we'll abide by.
It will be a quicker resolution than through the court system.
Okay.
And
but
much
you're-
cheaper.
Yeah, my only sort of qualm about arbitration is that there's not a lot of attorneys that do it. I've had trouble finding arbitrators, but there's several in Knoxville, I think there's one in Cookville, many in Nashville, but it would save the city money and you would get a result quicker. For this, it's probably appropriate.
So what would be your recommendation for the council as far as voting tonight for?
I think Holly did a great job.
Yeah, she really did.
I was, very leery of the 5-year
I knew you kept
term.
saying that.
But I think that anybody that's gonna invest in the hospital isn't doing it to get out and doesn't. So I think anybody that comes in, 180 days is way too short. That was my only holdup. They made a very good case as to why that's.
Is there anything in here that states how long that they have to get the hospital running?
It says that we can terminate the lease if they do not see patients in a year.
Yeah.
See patients within 1 year. And I don't know if that's reasonable. I'm not a physician.
I think if we'd have gotten it in August, we would have been telling you when the survey is.
Right,
Tonight. We'd
right.
have said, we're having a survey to open the hospital, would have been our announcement. Our plan is to try to do it in 4, but I suspect we're more gonna be 6 to 7, just because everything gets held up, but 6 months, so.
Well, and I know you don't wanna invest money to not see patients.
No,
I mean-
if it's a year, when Howie asked me that one, I said, well, if it's a year, we failed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if something came through and we had to open a critical access hospital instead of an REH, okay, that changes how that timeline would be, but it's gonna change it for whoever else you get, so I just come back and say, hey, we need 14 months because I need a critical access hospital.
Right.
But with what we have as the plan we presented to open an REH, I think 6 to 8 months is kind of, you ought to be coming and fussing at us if we're not open at that time.
But a lot of it depends on when you can get Medicare accreditation and.
Yeah,
and that's
the surveys and all.
And I know that's not easy, because I've dealt with that stuff before, and I know that's not easy. It does take several months to get that, more like 3 months
Yeah.
to 4 months.
It's not a slow process, or not a fast process.
But we have learned from previous experiences, if it's 4 months, if we should have it in 4 months, and we don't have somebody on that 4th month, we know how to get them there.
Politics comes in, so.
Myself, I like to go ahead and get it done. Get it done. Can I make a motion?
You can.
I'd like to make a motion to sign the lease agreement with Phoenix Rural Health.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Now, this is still got in here on this term with the 180 days. Is that just at the end of the 5-year lease? Am I reading that wrong?
Which paragraph is that?
Yeah,
Maybe
that's,
paragraph
they
2.
have to give 6 months notice if they're leaving at the end of the 5 years. The end of paragraph 2.
Any other discussion? Marcia, will you call the roll?
Harton.
No.
Bowman.
Yes.
Davenport. Yes. Minton.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Our next item on